Welcome back to Leicester City Down Under. I'm Luke. Thank you for tuning in. Sorry we're a bit late, but I'm sure we'll make up for it shortly. We've got here Chris. Chris is here to do the preview for a second time. I've dragged him through the mud into whoops. And here's Brad. How you going, Brad?
I'm all right, mate. I'm not too bad. How is everybody else?
I'm good, but then I haven't got extremely large nuts.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything else about the rest of his sentence. Either.
How are your extremely large nuts, Luke?
Chris is a grass. Everyone knows it.
Well, he's just offers to tug us both off, hasn't he? I don't know what he's offering sexual favours only in Australia, how easy it is to come by, but I'm a bit disturbed.
Is there a lock on my room when I stay with you, by the way, Luke?
You better hope so, mate. You better put me in the wheel for those.
Yeah, the problem is, Chris, the lock's on the other side of the door and he knows the key. He has the key.
Proper
I'll give you
Ted
the
Bundy
date,
door
Brad.
handle.
You know if you don't hear from me when you're supposed to, call the police.
I will do. Oh,
so, guys, how are we all feeling after the Bournemouth game? I really think we needed that.
Oh.
It was brilliant, wasn't it? I mean, I know Enzo said that you were not to judge our Premiership potential on that game, but bollocks, we do. We were playing a Premier League side. It wasn't even our first starting 11, although, let's be honest with you, a lot of clubs would have loved that team, that starting 11, to be their starting 11. And we gave Bournemouth a run for the money. I mean, okay, Bournemouth were awful in front of goal. We were as well a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, we stood toe-to-toe with them. And it was like, from a neutral's point of view, I'm guessing it was a very good game. I was there. It was amazing. And, if we play like that if we get promoted, then not saying that we're going to turn the division up, but we shouldn't have any relegation problems.
Brad, what do you think about that? Because by all accounts, they went pretty strong for that game.
Yeah, we've said this about them, that they put out a strong lineup, and I think, to be fair, you can understand why Leicester fans looked at that lineup initially and knowing how strong theirs was, and kind of probably was like, "Oh, that's a bit risky, all things considered." But it was a great it was a great performance, and it was a lineup. The way the lineup played actually kind of typified that. It kind of put that myth to bed that a cup 11, if you will, just doesn't really show enough about it. How many times do you see an upset happen? I know it wasn't an upset because we're Championship, they're Premiership, but you see a squad like that from a Premier League side and they go and get beat, and it's like, well, they didn't really turn up, they're not trained enough. It shows you how integrated that entire squad was, because the performance was very impressive. I was very impressed with that performance, and it was needed after back-to-back defeats in the league. I know we don't want to go back to, we don't want to go 3 defeats in the league, but that breakup and that boost in confidence, it's got to hold in good stead for the game on Saturday.
I think so, big time. Like, if you haven't seen it already, you guys or anyone that's watching and listening, there's a video that Leicester City's actual official Facebook, I think, posted, and I think on their YouTube as well, when it showed all the lads walk into the locker room after the game. But you can just feel like how happy they were as a team. Like that unit is back. I've talked about it before. That camaraderie is beautiful. We needed it. It was sorely, and it's like, considering where we were, at the start of the season, where things were starting to gel. We're trying to, and we'll just, after the last season we had, trying to, get everyone's heads back up, confident, happy, wanting to play for the badge. Superb. Now, the thing is, as you were saying, Brad, the heavy rotations we had and them going strong, I think it's just showing that the Enzo ball is clicking more and more, even in the youth and the players underneath. So if they're ready and they need to step up, they already fit that style of play. So I think it's absolutely testimonial to Enzo Maresca.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like I said, you normally see a side, and I hate to remind us Leicester fans of these moments where it's happened, but Chris, we had the dark days before, but we've also had the days where it's and I put under Powell before Rodgers. I hate sending a shiver down your spine to remind you, but I'm going to say 2 words to remind Leicester fans of them. Newport County. We was in dire form at that point. I think we was probably even more boring football than it was under Rodgers. It was the original developer of the sideways backwards passing football that Enzo's just making look 10 times better, even though it's kind of the same. We played Newport County and we had Diabetes or Diabati on the right. We had Rashid Gazelle, which was a false name. He should be sued for false advertisement. Because his name, he was anything but a gazelle in terms of pace and quality. We had basically a completely
first love child. Don't deny it, Brad.
Oh yeah, sorry, the secret's out. The secret's out. No, but you know what I mean. Like, and it was so dysfunctional. And regardless of how bad we were form-wise in the league at that point, that was the most disjointed performance under Powell's era. I mean, we were lucky to get him back into the game, and then it was almost right in the footballing world that they got a penalty to win the game because they deserved to win the tie. And you see that, and to see that performance from them players just shows you how well they are connected. Like you said, Enzo clearly doesn't have players thinking, what's the point in me trying here? Because even if I go and score 3 goals, or even if I save 3 penalties, I'm not going to play again. They know their position in the team, and they know they get rewarded with consistency, not just on the pitch, but on the training ground. It's embedded in these players already, and I do think it's fantastic. It's night and day a difference between how we looked a few years ago, even under Rodgers. I think you guys would agree. Our cup team, when we were weak, you could tell it was disjointed and wasn't up to scrap of the manager's plans or how he wanted them to play, because they just didn't trust them enough to do it. So I've taken a breath now. You can speak.
No, mate, that was good. When you get excited, it fires me up. Chris, what do you think about that? I can hear you thinking.
What the question was. What was the question?
Do you want to see my ankle again?
That's not a euphemism, folks. What was the question again? I've forgotten what it was. Sorry, Brad.
The question that I was answering for Luke, I took a paragraph answer, was like, does it show how Enzo's way is working, the way he's got the teams gelling, regardless of the players' playing time? Like the difference between, I just made the difference between other managers, how it didn't work, and it seems to.
I just think you've got a manager that the players respect and the players listen to, and they're on board with what he does. And it totally wasn't under Rodgers. You know, I hate to bring this up. Brad will probably scream when I say this, but FA Cup Nottingham Forest. You know, I mean, that was it was a pretty strong team, to be honest with you. We'd put the youth out against Watford the week before and beaten them, and then we'd put our strongest team out against Forest, and they stuffed us 4-1, 4-0, something like that. And yet here we go. I know when I looked at that, I actually was speaking to a Bournemouth fan before the game, and his wife said, "Oh, I'm going to go 3-1 Leicester," and I went, "Have you seen the team we put out?" And you know, to say that we put that team out and we got that performance, there's going to be some, you know, people who have, you know, used to starting are going to be looking over the shoulder.
100%. I think Brad's muted. Rodgers should have been sacked that game, but let's not talk about that too much. But see, the thing is, like, Rodgers like refusing to play, you know, Sionsu and playing the same starting 11, no matter like whoever was putting a shift in or not. Tillemans. Brad, going to what you were saying before, players being rewarded. I don't know. There's 2 Brads here in my screen share. Can you hear us, Brad?
Yeah, sorry, I was just going between phone and laptop. So as you can see on there, I've loaded in for later on for what we're going to do later on. Sorry, what was your question? Yeah, I've just got a screen ready to share for later on when you talk about it.
You saying that people being rewarded for a... Sorry, I'm just going to have to mute for a sec, Brad. You got a bit of echo, lad. I'll unmute in a second. Embedded and being rewarded, that's what I like about it, because not only are people being rewarded and they stay motivated, but it also causes, people fight for a spot, competitiveness amongst the squad, which I think can only benefit everybody. Keeps everyone on their toes. Everyone's trying to elevate their game constantly, or fear of being picked by someone else if they take their chance. Now, before we get into this QPR game, talking about chances, now this is Cody's chance, guys. Now we'll get into all our starting 11s in a bit, but for me, I think that Cody's leadership was sorely missed in that Leeds game.
Look,
For me,
he's got to think of him. He's got to think himself unlucky. He's come in and ex-England, international, bit not many games, and he's probably looking at a bit like Winks. I'm gonna storm this. But fair play to him. We haven't heard any moans or any grumbles, and I think he's experienced enough and old enough to go. Look, I was injured at the start of the season. Vestergaard and Faz came in. They're playing out of their skin, and I have got to wait my time. And Vestergaard is banned now for 2 games. I think Cody comes in for his experience. We've just lost 2. What you need is experience there now. I think he'll go for Nelson, but yeah, I think if Cody gets it, I think he'll be given the chance. He hasn't done anything wrong when he has played for us, and he had a bloody good game against Bournemouth.
Yep, I thought so too, Brad. How did you think Cody's performance was against Bournemouth?
I think he showed his Premier League experience. I think in a team that was mixed with a lot of youth, we had Rakitic in midfield. We had some, players that hadn't got much game time. You need that experienced head, and I think he did superbly. I think he really dictated the game in the defence. He controlled it, and you need that. You need the calmer head to prevail in that moment. And I know Vestergaard was obviously there, which probably helped, but when Nelson came on, and I know it was only for 15 minutes, but it's a vital part. We'd just taken a lead. You didn't want Bournemouth getting an equaliser and kind of knocking the stuffing out of us and conceding that we're going to go to penalties. He controlled him and kept him well in. So for me, I think the one thing I like about Enzo the most is he practices what he preaches. And every time he's kind of questioned about somebody not playing who we're expecting to play, he goes, he'll play. He's got a role to play. He's very important to what we need. And that's exactly what he said about Cody. So that's where I'm expecting him to play at least these next 2 games, because it would be very un-Enzo-like, a very short Leicester career, 30-odd games he we're into now, obviously. But every time he's been asked about a player, Daka, great example. We all thought he was dead. Gone. Well, not literally, but his career at Leicester, dead, over, gone. He was done. Yeah, he was Christ. He was absolutely Christ. He was cracking. He was done. And he kept saying he'll get his chance to play. He'll learn it. He trains well. Keeps training well. I'm going to give him a chance to shine. And I know he frustrates the living bejeebus out of you, so I don't want to swear, Luke, but he has had his chance. You know what I mean? And he has been brilliant when he's taken his chances. In terms of his record, not his chances he's missed, because he's missed a few. Akinbaye he would have blushed at. But it's good to see, and I hope he does get the run in the team that he deserves, because he's patient and he's working hard clearly on a training ground for it.
A quick question, Brad. Who's Rafferty?
I can't pronounce the guy's name. I cannot do it. I cannot do it.
I'm
going to stop calling him Rikishi and hope that 2 cool come out.
Rikie.
I can't pronounce it, mate. It doesn't look like Rikie, because I'm swear he's got an A in his name to start off with.
It doesn't look anything like Rafferty.
I said Rakitic to start off with. So
I said Rikie
out, and secondly, he's got an A in his name. How can it be
Rikie?
Rikie?
It sounded like Rafferty to me. I was expecting you to.
To be fair, I actually have got an old school mate whose last name is Rafferty, so it's probably my brain combining the 2, and that's why I'm making up the middle name.
Sorry, I'm being pedantic for comic effect.
I know, I love you, Chris. I love you, you knob.
Something else I want to ask you about as well. Yunus Akgün, poor in front of goal, but put himself everywhere, run his socks off, created a lot of opportunities. put himself in those spaces. Enzo always talked about how he wanted Cassidy to arrive late, come into the box. Eunice Atkin, it's a real shame for me because the only thing where I think, I've said this plenty of times, but I think the only thing where he falls short is his physicality on the ball, which the English, style of football is very physical. So it's a bit of a shame because he was brought in as a right winger and Fatau has made himself undroppable. So it's kind of difficult, but he's been played in that high pressing 8 position. And I think he actually suits it more on the left-hand side, but that's Keenan Dewsbury Hall's spot just nailed down. So I don't think we'll see him start, but I would like to see him get a bit of more of a run out, to be fair.
Well, for me, he was my man of the match. He ran his socks off. Yes, he couldn't to banjo with the bar door, or whichever way you say it now. But look, the last 2 goals that Leeds got against us were deflected. If he's putting that ball in to that box, it could hit a Bournemouth defender's arse and go in. I don't care. He ran his socks off on that game. Yes, he is a right winger, but you don't need physicality. Is Ndidi, whose place that really is he physical? Is he bollocks? You go past Ndidi and you fart and he could fall over. He's not exactly physical himself. And we've seen that when he played in defence. Sometimes it's nice to have a ball player. It really, really is. And that's what Eunice is. Yes, he, like I say, every shot he took, he missed. But he scared that defence. He ran at that defence. That defence would not put a foot in to try and tackle him in case they brought him down. And that's the other thing as well. He can earn you a penalty. He ran their defence ragged. For me, man of the match, 10 out of 10. I could not fault him, and he should start against QPR.
Way, new contender, Brad, for Chris's love child. Did you hear that? 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, he was good. And the thing is, I don't want to give too much away with my lineup, but when Iheanacho came onto the pitch, right, I said this to you, Chris, shut up. You love, you're only jealous because I'm right? You're only jealous because I'm right. Iheanacho is a deep laying forward. He always comes into the midfield to collect the ball. He's not a Dacron of Vardy who's going to sit on the line of the defence and break the lines. It actually showed us what Atgun, with a little bit of, smoothing the edges on his shooting, can do. Because Chris is very right. I mean, I let Chris go on it because I knew he was his man of the match from the game and he waxed lyrical about him. But he's right. He broke through Bournemouth's line of defence 4 or 5 times. And if he's allowed to do that, being freed up by an extra man in midfield or a striker of what Iheanacho does, where he comes short, he frees up the space because defenders can't mark both at the same time. They're going to have to leave a gap for one of them. And as we saw against Bournemouth, despite his inability to keep the composure in front of goal, Atgun, at least on 3 occasions, golden chances burst through. I know he was frustrating when he missed them chances, but last year's number 8 was a Yuri Tillemans. This year's number 8, whether he's been converted to because Fatou's locked in right wing or not, is Eunice Atgun. I know which one I'd rather have. And it isn't the FA Cup hero. I'm sorry, it isn't, because Atgun never let a bad effort, a bad miss, or a bad performance, or a bad 10 minutes get him down. Last year, Yuri Tillemans, if he didn't start off well, forget it. We were down to 10 men. He was the Belgian Perez for me. Oh, guys, I'm not sure if Chris is making it obvious who he wants for his man of the match there. I'm not sure if you could pick up on some hints, but yeah, Chris was right. I can forgive a player for missing chances like that when he's A, not a striker and he's not expected to take them, and B, he's constantly going for it. And the encouragement he got from his teammates on the sideline, you didn't see the manager throw a bottle and throw his hands up in the air. He was applauding him. He was telling him, go on, keep doing it. And I said this on the review of the show with Chris yesterday. Enzo will back him to do that again because he'll tell him, if you keep doing that, you're going to put a chance away. So,
and he has got a couple recently, Eunice. It's not like he can't score.
No, exactly.
Was it the Birmingham game that he scored that peach? Sorry, Brad. Nate's gone for probably a few players deserving between Hams and Vestergaard for me. I spot on. A lot of people went for Hamza. Vestergaard had a decent game. I'm going to go against the grain here, and it's a bit more sentimental and out of respect. But for me, I'm actually going to go for man of the match to Stolarczyk. I think that he's been. Yeah, I know. Hear me out. No, hear me out. No, hear me out. He has been a brilliant shot stopper. He only plays for these FA Cup games, mate. He is lightning fast reflexes. I think for the championship, he's a very decent number 2. Hasn't got the same ball distribution as Mads Hermansen, I know. But in my opinion, he's better than Iverson and Ward. So I know, but I like to pay respect. And he stepped up every single time. But this leads me into my next question, Chris. I'll go to you this first.
Child, love is in the air.
I love Mads. But look, last question before we get into the QPR, because this is a preview after war. But now that we've gotten to a quarterfinal, if we had much more of a lead in front of Leeds, different story, but still, how strong would you two, I'll start with you with this, Chris, personally, would you like to go against Chelsea? Do we go full strength? Because the Bournemouth was the closest looking we can get to the Premier League. And in all reality, without saying big head, we still have Premier League level squad, in my opinion. I have blue tinted glasses, fight me. But in my opinion, I would like to go strong against Chelsea.
I'm going to come back first of all on your man of the match. He made some good saves, but we always say with Mads, don't we? He's probably got 2 mistakes in him per game. Stolarczyk had 5 or 6 in that game where it could have cost us. So I'm sorry, I don't know whether you're watching a different game, Luke, but he was nowhere, was he? I could not pick him as man of the match at all. Simply, yes, he made some decent saves, which were standard saves for a goalkeeper, but his distribution was awful, and 5 or 6 times it could have cost us. If that was against a Liverpool or a Man City, we'd have lost that game something like 5-1. We really would. Going back to your next question, look, we want to get promoted. Of course we do. But when you look at the side that we put out against Bournemouth, they played better than the strong side that we put out against Leeds. So it doesn't matter whether we go strong or we don't, because if that's the strong side, and Chelsea, let's be honest with you, they struggled to get past Leeds. They only did it right at the death. All right, they won, fair enough, but they didn't play well at all. I was watching the game. I don't think it matters who we put out. And what annoys me though with teams is when it comes to playing Chelsea, what does it say to those 11? All right, we had Vestergaard and Chowdhury in there, but what does it say to the rest of the players that, well, hang on, yeah, it was okay to play you against Bournemouth, but you're not good enough to play in the next round? I'm sorry, that's a kick in the teeth, especially when they've played so well. We're not playing Man City, we're not playing Liverpool or Arsenal, we're playing Chelsea, who are struggling. To me, just go for the team that we put out against Bournemouth.
Brad,
Chris Florian, news at 10, Leicester.
I'm going to be different here.
You are different, Brad.
I'm always different in that way, but I mean, I 100% disagree with Chris on his idea.
Yes.
Well, I know, because you're right. You're wrong. Just purely because of what he said about Stolarczyk. If he was going to, he literally said against a Man City or anyone else like that, we would have conceded 4 or 5 because he would have gathered the ball away and the players would have been better equipped to have dealt with his stray passing. If you're going to give a wounded lion enough chances, he's still going to bite your leg. He's still going to eat you and maul you. You can't give Chelsea them 20-yard chances like Bournemouth because they're not going to sky them all over the. No, I was silent for you. Let me have my toe. I'm going back.
I'm just letting Luke know I want to come back to you on that point.
Okay, you set
yourself. No, keep going, Brad. I was just going to say.
You don't want Rafferty, Rachel, Randall, whatever his name is in midfield. I'm not trusting him to play against the likes of Conor Gallagher in midfield. I'm sorry. I want to see him play against a Bournemouth. That's fine, but not a Chelsea. I want a strong 11 Because whether we like it or not, whether we think it's right or not, and I don't think it is. I remember the days where it used to be like Stadium of Light, Villa Park, that the semi-finals were at. But for me, we are potentially at worst 120 minutes away from Wembley. We're 90 minutes away if it doesn't go extra time. You know, I want our strongest lineup available. And I want players that I have seen enough of and have the confidence to know that they're ready for a level. We said Bournemouth was a test, right? If we got Leeds, I'd be wanting the same side that just beat Bournemouth to go out. I will 100% with that. It's Chelsea. We're 90 minutes away from a visit to Wembley. We are 180 minutes away, depending on who we would get in that semi-final, of course, from another FA Cup final.
Huge.
Right,
I'm
we've
with you,
taken
Brad.
the piss out of this cup competition and our opponents with our team so far. Serious head on. Why not? Because I don't care for Leeds. I really don't. Because top two get us back in the Premier League. If our gap between Southampton stays as it is, take the knee, Southampton, because you've been bottling it for weeks. Right, take the knee. That's our gap. If our gap stays the same and we get to that quarter final against Chelsea and we're still 11 or more points clear of them, absolutely go for it because we can beat them. Chris was right. Leeds nearly did it. Our strongest 11 will beat Chelsea. Brad, I'll tell you TV2 news at 10.
May I come back on that, Luke?
Yeah.
In fairness, Brad, what I was saying about Salarchik is he had a bad game. I didn't say he was crap. I didn't say he was rubbish. I just said he didn't deserve man of the match.
Now, edit this, Luke. He did. We'll make it so it sounds like he said that.
I never said that.
I know what you meant. I know how you
did
meant.
not
And I agree
deserve
with you.
to be man of the match, which he didn't. He was miles off being man of the match, but he made decent saves that he had to do.
I did call him Peggy Arfaxad of the team, didn't I, Chris? To be fair with you, so
yeah, exactly. So and you are saying you want our strongest 11 out there. Well, our strongest 11 couldn't beat Middlesbrough. Our strongest 11 capitulated against Leeds. That's not that's your strongest 11. But the 11 we put out against Bournemouth beat a Premier League team.
Our strongest 11 also put 4 past Southampton as well. So football's not
how many months ago was that?
It was still at Southampton. It was still away from home. They're still chasing us down.
And Southampton were awful, but that was months ago. We're talking what your strongest team from September, October is not your strongest team now. That team that put 4 away against Southampton, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, had Ndidi in it. Well, he's not there. Oh, yeah, Cassidy in it.
Okay, we cannot pick our strongest 11 on one particular player because he's out until potentially the end of the season.
No, but what I'm saying is the strongest 11 we have then is not the strongest 11 we've got now.
Okay, I can tell you what then, just for you, Chris, just to appease you, nitpicky ways.
I'll just do what Luke said. Luke said about Southampton.
Okay, Luke, because your opinion's wrong and you are wrong, right? We'll pick our
on this, Brad.
I know, I can't believe it. We'll pick our strongest 10 then. Our strongest 10 and someone to replace Ndidi. I get where you're coming from, Chris, but you could then also, this is why I love to argue with statisticians, because you want to say our strongest 11 lost to Leeds and lost to Middlesbrough. The strongest 11 also didn't lose 28 other games out of the 34 we played this season. So take the knee on that stat because our stat proves our strongest 11. And I'm just winding Luke up for take the knee because I love it.
You can only go on the last game, and that's like saying wasn't Rodgers a fantastic manager for us because he got us 5th twice and he got us the beat us an FA Cup. No other manager's done that for Leicester. Best manager we've ever had, Brendan Rodgers. What do you mean he got us relegated? We won the FA Cup and he got us to Europe twice. You know, you've got to go. And I get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying. But what I'm saying is, and that team that we put out against Leeds would be, apart from Ndidi, it's virtually the same team every week. But it got pummeled by Leeds. That team couldn't beat Ipswich twice. So, and what I'm saying is, like, how do you feel if you've done really, really well? How does Eunice feel? He ran his socks off. At the end of the game, he collapsed onto the pitch. He was that knackered. Oh, sorry, you're not playing against Chelsea because it's Chelsea. That's what Arsenal do. You know,
Well,
Arsenal used to
that's-
pay
No,
the young
no,
ones
no,
up
no.
for the supporters.
There's a difference between youth players and fringe players and someone who's been getting in this team semi-regularly, either off the bench or starting. I wouldn't mind certain changes, like a Chowdhury, a Pratt, or an Atgun. I'm talking your Ben Nelsons, your Richard Raffertys, your bloody Steve Maguires, whoever they are, the youngsters. You know, I don't want that responsibility on them. I still want them to be able to. I think we're all realistically thinking. I don't know about you guys. You're probably not because you can't think. Sorry, I'm joking. I love you guys. Really, I'm joking. I'm getting too big for my boots. Chris is going to beat me up after this show if I keep this mouth up with him. You know, I think we want to get to a point in the season where the top two's guaranteed, and we can afford to give Nelson, Mr. R, whatever his name is, some others, Alves and Braybrook, a 4 or 5 game run in this team because promotion's safe. And the only thing we're really going for is the title.
I
Against
would
Chelsea.
agree with you, Brad. I would agree with you 100% there that, you know, against Chelsea, no, you don't put Nelson in, Reike in, Baybrook, Alves. What were those? The Thomas that was on the bench, and I can't remember the other guy. No, you don't put them on. You make your bench stronger. Definitely. I mean, there was some like, you know, where was, you know, some of the strong players, you know, that were missing off the bench. So I agree 100% with you on that point. Yes.
We're
Well-
agreeing too much. This is scary. I know, Chris. It's 5 off camera. I'm going pale.
Look, let's move on to the Queen's Park Rangers game. So it's one. First of all, just I know you guys are aware, but for anyone that might not know, ever since they've had a new manager come in, they've picked up a lot more better form than they were at the start of the season. They 2 against Rotherham, 2-1. They beat Bristol City. They lost to Stoke, drew of Norwich, beat Blackburn, and drew of Huddersfield. So not bad compared to where they started at the start of the season. So going into this, I was a little bit nervous after the Leeds and Middlesbrough game, but I think after that Bournemouth, it's reinvigorated the team, and that moves us on to the starting 11. So going to do all of our starting 11s. I'm going to start mine. I have gone. Now, let me just zoom in a bit for everyone. Starting from the back, as you can expect, Mads Hermansen. Now, I've gone Wout Faes on the right hand in his usual spot. I think he's better there for his runs forward. I think his diagonal passing can be brilliant. And I think that if he makes those roving forwards, runs forward that he normally does, you're going to need Cody there to cover him. If you were to put him in the middle, I think Cody doesn't look as comfortable on the right-hand side. So that's personally what I expect to see, but I could be wrong. So Connor Cody in the middle centre back, JJ in the left. Doyle just had a big game. JJ's got a lot more pace. In my opinion, he's much better at this point of his career. Ricardo Pereira back in that, deep, that 6 role. I think he's going to be starting. I don't think it's going to be Hams. I know he had a decent game, but he just played a lot of minutes, so I expect him to be rested, maybe brought in towards the end of the game, depending how it's going. Harry Winks back in his usual spot. Now, I've gone for Dennis Pratt as my right-hand side high-pressing 8. Now, I could be Eunice, but with the amount of he's not been playing and the chances he's had, I expect him just to be playing the FA Cup games and stuff like that. He deserves it, don't get me wrong, but I don't think we're going to sign him. So I think that 25 trigger clause, however many matches it is the reason why. Could be wrong. Dewsbury Hall, he's had a good rest. He should be back and rearing to go. Mavadidi, Fatawu as our wingers. Now, here's the interesting one. I could be way off with this because Kalechi might not have even been on the bench for a lot of these games because he hasn't put pen to paper. But I thought he put a decent shift in. Now, I would like to see Iheanacho get a start this game. I believe Vardy's injured. Probably most likely going to be Daka because he has been the main man. But as we talked about earlier, Enzo rewards effort and when people play well. And I thought for the time he was on, he was decent. So what do you guys think of that? And then Chris will get your starting 11 up.
Yeah, that's not far off me. I mean, I put 4 at the back as with Brad. We had that problem the other day, didn't we? But we know Ricardo goes up into midfield. I must have watched a different game because Iheanacho was okay. He wasn't brilliant. Didn't set the world alight. I'd actually forgotten that he'd even come on the pitch. My son had to remind me. So I don't know what I was watching that everybody else didn't seem to be, but he gets nowhere near the team for me. I'm sorry. He's third choice because Vardy's injured. He's not signed. And I think the fact that he didn't even make the starting lineup for this one kind of says it all. Pratt, Eunice, toss a coin, take your choice. The rest of the team, apart from Cody, picks itself. But I agree with you for Cody in there.
Brad, what do you say?
He's upset probably because I called Kelechi.
I know I have to have a lie down, but I mean it's pretty much what we've come to expect from the last few weeks, especially with Pratt in there. It's just an OCD thing with me. It really annoys me that you haven't put us a flat back four and you put us in attack mode. But I know why. I get it.
I upset him, Luke. I did that the other night. I upset Brad as well.
I was like, why have you put us in back four? Stop it! You're hurting my face. But it's very Enzo lineup. That again, you talk about. Oh well, you did really amazing. Like Chris said, you do really amazing. Oh, but thanks for that. You're not playing against Chelsea. It's a difficult one because both have done really well. Pratt and Atgun given the chance. It's a nice headache for a manager to have, and I think one of them is going to be disappointed. Come Saturday to realise they're on the bench, but they both can impact the game differently. So who knows? Maybe he will. Maybe he'll do well. I mean, either one of them could start there, and with the way they both play, I actually agree with you because of how Iheanacho plays as a striker. He frees up that extra. That attacking mid-roll to go forward and try and break the defensive lines as we saw Atkin do against Bournemouth. So naturally, my love child's there, so I'm happy for him to be there. But I do understand why Chris and others kind of look at him and go, well, what did he actually do?
I can answer that. Brad, you'll agree with me in this. For me, what Kelechi has that no one else has in our strikers is when he holds up the ball with his physicality, he picks out a much more reliable pass. So should our wingers or any of our high-pressing aides not be in position, he's able to get the ball. He's able to hold it up until people are in position and then play off a decent pass. That's what I think one of his key strengths is when he plays deep. But sometimes he doesn't get there in time, and after all, he's a striker. So it's a bit of a caveat to that. But in my opinion, that's what I think he does well and what he did do in that game.
Yeah, I think the way he's instructed to play and the way they want to get the best out of him, it clearly is what they want from him, and he does that well. And I think sometimes, we're all very accustomed to striker stay up front, striker get ball, striker go goal, and because we've seen that over the years, and it's so simple. It used to be such a simplistic role, and it has changed because I don't know. We speak highly of him, Chris, don't we? Okazaki. And he didn't score a lot of goals. No. I don't think he hit double figures for us in the season. But because he provided for Vardy and he run his socks off in that midfield to break up and win the ball in a high press, I know in terms of pace and that, they're nowhere near on the same level. But what he's getting him to do, it does kind of, that Bournemouth game, it felt like we had two strikers, but one was getting the ball and working at midfield, and the other one was actually the attacking midfielder bursting through. And I've been saying this for ages, and Chris will vouch for me on this. Iheanacho works in a two-man strikership. He does not work he's nowhere near as effective in a one up on in front of his own. He needs somebody who's going to break through the lines. It's why, funny enough, he outscored Vardy one season when they were both playing up front. Yes. Who knew?
Do you remember Peter Beardsley?
I do indeed.
I mean, I don't, Luke, you're too young, but but he basically was the partner to Gary Lineker, and at that point, I mean, what a pairing they were. Beardsley hardly scored because he was setting them all up for Lineker. Like you say, he was like that Okazaki for England, wasn't he? And sometimes you need that.
Be interesting to see him in that high pressing 8 position. If I don't think Enzo would ever do it, but if let's say someone like Daka or Vardy was playing as a striker and he didn't want to play Pratt, be very interesting to see if Kelechi could get put in that position. But I don't think he will ever do it because he hasn't.
I think there's other people that would jump into that position first.
Yeah.
Chris, we'll start with you and then we'll go to Brad. Talk us through your starting 11 here.
Pretty much. I mean, it's not that different from you. A lot of them pick themselves. Hermansen comes back in. Sure, we'll get a couple of mistakes from him. And like I say, every time we do, Every game we get a couple of mistakes on the goalkeeper minimum. Justin, I mean, when he came on, I think he made the difference. I don't have anything particularly against Doyle. I just don't see whether it's the fact that he's not had many games or not, but he's just not set the world alight for me. Pereira, yeah, I mean, come on, how can you not play him again? When he came on, him and Justin coming on, I mean, it was the difference for us. Faze, I think you've got to include him. He does like to bomb forward. We've seen that a couple of games. In fact, I think he did it once against Bournemouth. And I have a feeling he's going to go for Nelson because he seems to like Nelson. And Nelson, Cody's only signed for us for 2 years, so after 2 seasons. So after this, he's only got 1 more season. So he probably sees Nelson as the guy to follow on from Vestergaard, because we saw it. I don't know which Leeds goal it was, but when he was running back, as much as I love him, Vestergaard looked like he was running through mud. He couldn't get any speed up at all, where Nelson has. But I think for this one, having lost 2 games in the league, Middlesbrough and Leeds, and I know this is QPR, but they're something like 12th. Their away form, they are 12th in the league. Our home form, we are 5th. We're not that many, miles apart on that form. They didn't make it easy for us in the first game. And I think Cody's experience and that old head, I think, is what we need in this game. Dewsbury Hall and Winks, to me, yeah, I mean, again, goes without saying. The 2 wingers, God, who else do you pick? Now, Brad will know, because the other day when I did the show, I think I may well have put Pratt in, and then I went to Eunice, then I went back to Pratt. Thing with Pratt is, him and Fatawu, like Ndidi and Fatawu, have got such an understanding. I mean, Fatawu will put the ball down into the corner of that box, and you're thinking, he's not played it to anybody. Osron, what are you on about? That Leeds game, he can fucking run for love nor money. We know he hasn't got speed. Jesus Christ, mate, what are you watching? Sorry, mate, but we know Vestergaard hasn't got any speed.
He must not be a fast runner, Osron.
Yeah, I think he must. I think he loves him more than me. I love Vestergaard, but you find me somebody else who says he can run. But yeah, so Fatawu can play that ball down that channel to nobody, and Ndidi and Pratt just run onto it, and then obviously set up, the goals. But Atgun, I just think, like I say, he ran his socks off, and I just think he deserves the chance. The other day I did say Daka. Well, we agree to disagree, Oswin. We'll leave it at that. Daka, Cannon, I don't know. I could have gone for either. I think I had Cannon first, and I think Brad will say I had Cannon in my starting lineup the other night. But I just think Daka, he just gives that speed again. With him, and if Atgun's going to run into that box like he was against Bournemouth, you want another player that's going to keep up with him. And I think Daka's just the fastest of the strikers.
Fair play. Let's get into Brad's.
Yeah, all of our minds are smallest out of a lot of them. Yeah, not this big screen on my end, is it? I don't know why it's like that, but I've literally, Chris already knows this. I've stuck to my guns on what I predicted on Chris's channel, because I know people might, where's that gun? Where's the Dennis Pratt? I want us to get at QPR. And as much as I loved Atgun's performance, and as much as I love Dennis Pratt's, you talk about potential long term. Okay, we've got to subsidise Vestergaard probably next season anyway. But in terms of the promotion push, the job that's in hand for this last quarter of the season, you've got to have a fairly consistent 11 as best you can. And all right, Vestergaard's out for 2 games, so that's why Cody goes in there. For me, I want the experience over Nelson. I'd rather Nelson have that run in at the end of the season when promotion's done, like I said. The reason I've gone Hamza Chowdhury in is I've noticed over the last couple of games, because we've been a bit susceptible to some dodgy kick-outs from our goalkeepers, both of them. both of them have been dodgy with them. We need that extra body a bit closer to the defensive line, and I don't want to waste Harry Winks there. I want to see, and this is why I've picked Kelechi and Acho up front over Daka and Cannon, because whilst I agree with Chris, pace is going to be vital. You need to have them bodies in the middle, and if Kelechi goes forward, and if Kelechi plays and comes deep, it means Chowdhury can stay in our half, and Dewsbury Hall and Winks can push forward, and all of a sudden we've got a 5-man pronged attack with Kelechi, Dewsbury Hall, and Winks attacking, and he's got the outlets of Mavididi and Fatawu. And then what that allows you to do, if we can get in a position of comfort without taking things too granted, if we are 2 or 3-0 up, you can then allow a Pratt and an Atgun to play. You can rest Winks or Dewsbury Hall, give them 20 minutes on the bench to go and have an ice bath and chill out. The game management situation allows you to play these players, and for me, Chowdhury's warranted it. And again, you're talking one eye on the Premier League. I don't want to jinx it or anything, but the only way I would change, and the only person I would realistically change in my lineup if I was to fully think on that, would be a Daka or Cannon because of the contract situation. You think long term, they've both got longer than Iheanacho on their contract, because Iheanacho would be out the door come the end of the summer. But for me, the start of this game, like Chris said, and we spoke to a QPR fan who explained how they're going to go about it. They're going to press their line. If they're going to press the high line and try and flood that midfield, I want 5 bodies. And having a deep line forward like Iheanacho, you're going to get that. You can afford to have five bodies in that midfield. So that's purely why I went for the midfield I did. And I feel harsh because I've agreed all show with Chris that Atgun or Pratt should play in that team. But for me, it's like, play the smarter game, because they're more attacking minded than Chowdhury ever will be. Hamza Chowdhury is never going to be an attacking centre. He's not going to be a centre attacking midfielder. He's never going to do that role. He is a clean up on aisle 5 sort of guy, isn't he? He's there to mop up. So that's how I would start things. And then if the game dictates it, we can change it to an Atgun, be a bit more aggressive, be a bit more free flowing, and get Daka or Cannon on in that second half.
Let's be honest, if any of those 3 lineups were starting, I wouldn't mind.
No, I agree. All
100%.
3 of us managed Leicester right now with the lineups we picked.
Yeah. I just think, any of those 3, like I say, the team that we put out against Bournemouth, which wasn't our normal starting 11, that is better than probably 2/3 of the Championship's first teams.
I mean, I if you was to ask me play the same 11 that played against Bournemouth against QPR, again, Chris, like you said about Alfie Lotz, I would after seeing them the way they performed, I would have confidence if he stuck with them.
Yeah,
I don't think he will by any means, but if that lineup started, I'd go, well, they've proved it once against tougher opposition, why not?
Yeah, no, I agree, Brad.
Spot on. So happy of all 3 starting 11s, all very close in certain ways. Chris, I'll start with you. Score prediction.
This isn't the QPR that we met earlier in the season. Different manager, different attitude. Like I say, on away form only, they are the 12th best team over the past 5 games. On home form, we are 5th. It isn't going to be easy, and it wasn't easy for us, let's be honest with you, when we played them last time. We just managed to get the win. So I think they'll score, because I think we do seem to have that in our locker to be able to concede a goal. But I have gone for a 3-1 Leicester win. I was going to go 2-1, but no, I thought because of the confidence that must be in our squad now, I have gone for 3.
Ooh, Brad, what have you got for?
Yeah, it's a game where I expect a completely different QPR, which is kind of a shame, because if it was the QPR that we played against at Loftus Road, Leicester were 20%, weren't they, in understanding Enzo's way? We're now fully embedded. I think we'd smashed them to pieces. Having said that, some teams have gone at us the way the QPR fan that was on our channel yesterday suggested. They could still come a cropper to a beating from us. I've gone 3-0 in the predictions league, and I'm still going to back it. I just think it's going to be a comfortable-ish 3-0 win, or it might be one of them where we score the second goal in the 70th minute and it kills them off and we go and get a third late on. I don't see it being a game where we go and absolutely take the piss out of them like we did Stoke. I'm still annoyed at Stoke because they should have conceded 3 more. It's not like I predicted 8-0 or anything, but it's football, it happens.
I'm gonna go for, you guys know what I went for in the predictions league. I'm gonna go for, I just feel like we've created a lot of chances in the Borough game. Granted, it was frustrating. Same thing for Leeds. We didn't put it away. We weren't clinical, but you can still see there's a lot of domination of the ball. Yes, it doesn't win games, but for me, I think morale is high after that Bournemouth game. I think there's a lot of young players in the squad that would be really excited at the idea of playing in the Premier League. This is their chance to prove it. Mavadidi, Fatawu, all these young players that were brought in. Winks wanting to reignite his career, coming out saying he wants to play for the England squad again. I think this is here. This is it. This is fucking it. This is do or die. This is the final run out, boys. We have to play strong. We have to put people to the sword. We have to go full strength against Chelsea, in my opinion. We have to show that we're ready to step up. We're not going to do a Burnley. We're not going to go up and come straight back down. We played the same brand of football, win, loss, or draw. We did the same thing against Liverpool when we played them. We played our same style and brand of football, and we're going to continue to do so. It's continuing to click a little bit, piece by piece at a time. Yes, we're going to have frustrating losses. And yes, we're going to have goalkeepers that are going to make frustrating passes at the back, but it's how we play. And in my opinion, we're getting a little bit better at a time. And when we have a bad game, we have a blip, we learn from it and we come back stronger. Heads are not dropping. Morale is there. I'm going for 6-0. Take the knee, Leeds. Still 6 points clear.
You know what? I admire and absolutely love the fact that you just use the expression "take the knee" because it's just so said with such etiquette that was a way of saying that you go on here, just take the knee. I mean 6-0. I thought I made some Wally predictions.
I mean, fair play to you, mate. Fair play. I mean, don't get me wrong. Just for you to get 3 points in the prediction league, I'd love you to be right. We'll see. We'll see. You know, no. You won't get anybody here complaining if it did end up 6-0.
No, you certainly wouldn't. You really wouldn't. It'd go up there. It'd have to have its own highlight release on the DVD when they bring it out for the season review. If it was that,
yeah. Over-enthusiastic Australian guy that doesn't know what he's talking about predicted 6-0 by chance or by choice.
It's like Glenn McGrath predicting an Ashes. He always goes 5-0. This is what Luke's learned to do. Just predict the same and eventually it'll happen.
Yeah. That's
this will be the week, Luke, that we win 4-0 and you wish you'd predicted it.
Yeah, don't say it. Look, I'll be happy for 3 points either way. As you can tell and hear, I love this club. I'm so passionate. I've always going to have blind faith in this club no matter what. It's why I got up at that whole relegation season, people that know, I was getting up at 3:00 in the morning for some of these games live every single fucking time. And I thought, this game's going to be the one. This is going to be the one when we turn around. That's why it's so depressing and not good for your head to go to work and paint walls all day out thinking about fucking why Marty got picked for the fucking 6th consecutive game in a row. Like, you know what I mean? And then you got Brendan Rodgers clapping and writing stupid shit in his notebook. Pissed me off. But anyways, complete different feel to this season. I'm happy. I still have faith in Enzo, and I think that this is going to be the final run out that we need, and hopefully we build upon it in the summer. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. Chris, give a shout out to your channel. Chances everyone watching is from yours anyway, but still do it.
As you can see there, LTID TV, Leicester Till I Die TV. It's the same on all the, if you stick one in LTID TV or Leicester Till I Die TV, it's the same, like I say, on all the social medias. Do check us out on our new TikTok. Well, it's not new, but our TikTok channel. We're trying to get to 1,000 followers on there. Then we can go live on there as well. So that's TikTok, LTID TV. Please go and follow us on there. Cheers, Luke.
No worries, mate. Brad?
What do you want? Oh, I see. It's a shameless plug that you're wanting. Okay, yeah, you can find me mostly on either this channel with Luke or with Chris on LTID TV. As you can see, there is a bit of difference in mine. I'm LTID TV 2, which is the home of football quizzes. And because we are still a Leicester channel over there, the clue is in the name, I do the Leicester City women's content. We've got content in the background being made, ready to go. So if you want to show your support and you love quizzes, football quizzes, and get over there, and we can get stuff up and running this season and get everything going on there. But yeah, show your support to the other two channels first. Way more important than this one. This is where the love and care is needed. So yeah, thanks for having us on, Luke.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks for joining. Look, we all essentially are Leicester Till I Die TV. We're all always on there for the watch-alongs. You can always find Chris there, and you can always find one of us two or both of us talking rubbish and getting kicked off the screen if we don't
Well,
align
if
with Chris's
you
point.
want to wake up in the morning, Luke. Yeah, you know.
Thanks, guys. Guys, if you like this, please like and subscribe. I will hopefully be back on Sunday afternoon UK time for a third quarter season review. Going to really try and push some content out. I'm really going to try to get to 200 subscribers. And if you like it, please do subscribe. And if not, it's all good. Thank you for tuning in. Have a good weekend, guys, and bring on QPR.